Hi, welcome to the July update. For the last couple of weeks I've not been able to get up into the loft after twisting my knee, so there's been no progress made up here at all. But it's allowed me time to think about the nodes that I'm using, and obviously my YouTube channel's been used to show the journey into the adaptation of this layout from CMRI to using DIY LCC nodes, and trying to maintain that repository has become a little bit of a nightmare for myself. So I've decided to use the last 2 or 3 weeks to start releasing some dedicated basic nodes, as I call them, onto the repositories of their own, which allows me to make a wiki feature for each particular node and put some more documentation onto them. Now, at the moment I've just released 6 different nodes that are based on the single ESP32 using what I call its native pins and a single transceiver module. Now, the initial ones weren't going to have frog switching available on them, but I've now released a version which allows you to have 2 servos and 2 frogs. They are on dedicated pins, and then also you've got 6 inputs and 6 outputs on that node. So those, I felt that I needed to get them out sooner than later. Obviously the next thing I want to work on is what I call beyond the basics, which will then bring in the MCPs that you've seen me using already on my layout, and the PCA 9685 in the future. We have got a test version of the PCA 9685. We're just working through the last few bugs before I'm prepared to release anything on that in the future. So that's what I've been working on away from the layout. As I say, I've finally just got back up in here, so as you can see it is a bit of a mess at the moment while I've been messing around with the nodes. The Mimic panel has now got a new node that will work for that, which I will show you a little bit in a minute. And as I say, that's where this will be going. So I'll show you some of these new nodes and the new GitHub repositories next. So this is what I call the basic node. And here you can see I've got the standard ESP32 Dev1 kit module. It's a 30-pin version. It's sat on top of the shields that I've been using for all the previous nodes, and then here you can see my transceiver module that I prefer to use. So this gets its RX and TX from pins 15 and pin 2s, and then the servos can connect to here. Obviously for servos you need to supply 5 volts for the servos, so you're going to have a little breakout board. There is a nice little module available that would drive up to 4 servos. I think it's about £4.50 from DigiKeys. And then you also have 2 pins here that are used for frog relays. I then make another 6 pins available for inputs and 6 pins available for outputs on these pins here. So as I said, we've now got 6 nodes that I have released so far for. So if you go to my GitHub repositories, so you can see the link here, I'll put this in the chat anyway. If you go to here, you'll see now we've got a number of nodes here. So this is the latest one, which has got the frog switching in. Then we've got an 8 output with 40 actions and 8 input node. Then we've got the root setter. Now this is handy for a Mimic panel, which allows for 16 inputs to control 40 actions, which controls 10 turnouts per root at the moment. I then have an LCC 16 output node. So that one again is 16 pins and 40 actions. So each pin can have, a number of actions associated with it, which I think is handy for if you want to be able to make the LEDs or the other things, either constantly on, off, blinking or whatever. And then we have the LCC 16 input node. Again, that's handy for different things like block detection, infrared detectors. And then we have the LCC 2 servo 8IO. Now this is the node that I originally started off with as an Arduino. It's been ported over to the ESP32, and this is available because, again, this offers you 8 IOs. We had to limit it because of the way we've done it, but that allowed you to choose each pin individually and use it that way. Obviously, there is a number of private ones here. So this is the one that we're working on, which has got the PCA 9685. That one is still private until we iron out the last few bugs. So hopefully you can see the type of things we've been working on. If I go into I'll go into this one here, and you'll see this feature up here, which is the wiki. So I've started populating the wikis. Not all of them have been updated fully yet. There's a lot of work involved in bringing these. So it sort of goes into some of the details. And then you can see we've got the different bits. Obviously, we need a device for being able to connect to the CAN bus. Currently, I'm using the Merg CAN USB 4. I'm hoping to have another device in the near future, so you don't need to do any soldering. I'm not sure. Obviously, we can use the Sprog LCC USB node. So that, is another, if you don't want to do any soldering, that's where I'm trying to take this. So, for the people who can't solder, you've got a way into using a CAN bus system. Then we go into some of the setups. So these are the current servos I'm using on my layout at the moment. These seem to be quite nice and reliable, quite quiet. I say these are the things for the frog switching. Even though at this point, this is more for the powering of the servo, not the frog switching. So it allows you to have up to 4 servos. You power it from 5 volts, and then we just feed the data into these pins here. There is some on AliExpress, just as expensive to be honest. So from DigiKeys, you have got this as an option. I then show how you can set up the servos and going through the different stages of doing this. As I say, this documentation is a work in progress. I plan to put a lot more details in these over the next few weeks while I'm away on holiday. So anyway, I think I've talked enough today. So hopefully you can see the progress we're being made. And again, thank you for taking the time to view this video. I appreciate any feedback. It's all welcome. And I'll catch you all again soon. Thank you again. Bye now.